it smell? It is March, which means that it is TBR month for me. In March, I like to go through my whole TBR. I like to cull some books, get rid of them, either put them in my basement box books or donate them to little free libraries, etc. Ones that I know I'm not going to read. I like to organize my TBR shelves, and usually I do a my full physical TBR video for this month as well, but I don't know if that's going to happen this month because I have so many books. I have too many books on my TBR that I don't know if I really want to go through every single one of them. Another thing that I like to do this month is some kind of tag related to my TBR. I've done the TBR tag and I've done another one that is similar to that. I will list both those videos down below. This year I want to do a tag that's a mashup of two tags, both about your bookshelves, not necessarily about your TBR shelves, but I am going to make them about your TBR shelves. I'm going to be answering some of the questions from both of these tags, not all of them. The first tag that I'm going to be answering questions from is the bookshelf book tag, and that was created by A Wandering Mind. And the next one that I'm going to be answering questions from is the Cull YA Books Tag, created by Katie Books. So to start off with the bookshelf book tag, the first question is, how many bookshelves do you have? And again, I'm going to relate all these back to my TBR. So I'm going to say, how many TBR bookshelves do you have? For those who don't know, TBR means to be read. And a lot of people who read a lot of books sometimes have whole shelves where they put their to be read books. So the books that they haven't read yet, but they want to get to in hopefully a timely manner. Some people have hundreds or thousands of books on their TBR. Some people keep their TBR very, very small, but most of us keep our TBRs in a very specific place, either on a bookshelf or a book cart or something like that. How many TBR bookshelves do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 bookshelves that I put TBR books on. As far as how many shelves are used in all those, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I have 13 individual shelves that I put TBR books on 4 entire bookshelves. How many books are on your bookshelves, or how many books do you think you have? So I think when I counted last year, I was around like 215 or something like that. I will have to go back and look and I will let you know what the actual number was, but I would say now I probably have at least, I think I probably have about 300 books on my bookshelves, and maybe I will just count them really quick and put them in here. I did go through and do a reorganization of my bookshelves, which you will see at some point. How do you organize your TBR books? So I organize my books mostly by genre. I have some shelves for nonfiction, I have some shelves for mystery thriller, I have some shelves for sci-fi and contemporary books, I have a shelf that I put like my DNF or my project books on, and I have a shelf that I put like try chapters or books that I'm unsure about. And then I like to put books that I'm like currently reading or about to read or in the not too distant future TBRs on kind of the front of those bookshelves. What is the oldest book on your bookshelf? And in quotations it says open to interpretation. So I've talked about this one before, but I think one of the oldest books that I have is Be Here Now by Ram Dass. This is one that I got from my mom, I believe, and it's been on my shelf for a long time. That's probably not the oldest edition that I have, but it's probably the book that's been on my shelves for the longest. For oldest edition, I definitely have some books from like the 20s and 30s, were written in the 20s and 30s, and also that the edition is in the 20s, 30s, so those are probably the oldest books, and those are generally like mysteries. What is the newest book on your bookshelf? The newest books on, oh sorry mouse. The newest books on my bookshelf are 2 that I got yesterday, one that I purchased and one that I got from a little free library. The first one that I got from a little free library is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. This is a 2022 release, and it is like a time loop book where a woman sees her son murder someone, and then each day she starts over again but going further back to try to prevent this murder. So I was so lucky to find this because I saw Beautifully Bookish Bethany me talk about this in her tour video, which was really good. I'll link that down below. And I happened to find this book, which I was interested in from her video. It is Dream Ships by Melissa Scott, and this was written in 1992. What is the longest book on your TBR? So I think the longest book on my TBR currently is Out by Natsuo Kurino. This is a Japanese horror book and it is 520 pages long. This is actually on my try a chapter pile because I'm not sure that I want to read a book that long, so I might be unhauling this one once I try a chapter of it. I think the next longest might be Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is up here, which I think is in the 400 page range. What is the shortest book on your shelf? I like short books a lot, so I'm sure I have some books that are under 100 pages, but I'm not entirely sure which ones those are. What is the predominant genre on your TBR? So I think number-wise and genre-wise, it's probably nonfiction or literary fiction. I like both those genres a lot, but I think I don't read them as much as I read other books. The most prominent genre that I read off my TBR is probably mystery, thriller. Those are my favorite. And then this isn't a genre, but also books by people of color. So on my TBR shelf, I actually have all my books by people of color on a different shelf so that I can easily access them, but that means that the genres are all mixed together on those shelves. Have you done a bookshelf tour? So no, I have never done a bookshelf tour. I have been revamping my library and creating my dream library and dream office for the last year or so. It's getting there. It's not 100% finished yet, but I have never done a full bookshelf tour of either my entire library or just my TBR shelves. Do you have any fan merch or other decorations on your bookshelves? On my red shelves, I do, but on my TBR shelves, I don't. I look at my TBR shelves like all the time, and I'm constantly moving books around on them to either find books that I like, that I want to read, or that I want to use for videos, so I don't decorate it really. Moving on to the Cull YA Books Tag, Cull YA Books Tag by Katie Books. What book did you buy with absolutely no desire to read it? I don't buy very many books with no desire to read, but when I buy a book that with no desire to read, I don't put it on my TBR. I either put it in like my vintage book section, or in the case of Night Shift by Stephen King, I picked up this book solely because of the cover. I don't buy very many books, so I got it at a little free library, and I just thought the cover was amazing, and it lives on my red shelves, which I do decorate. What is the most awkwardly sized or shaped book on your TBR? And that has to go to Apple of My Eye by Helene Hanff. I've been working my way through Helene Hanff's entire catalog of books, and I got this one used online, but it's this very strange, almost perfectly square hardcover book. It was clearly like a library book. It's plasticky, but then the actual writing inside is not nearly as large as the book itself, and it's just a very awkward size and shape. The next question is, how often do you have a book cull? So like I said, every March I go through my books pretty hardcore, see if there are books that I'm not sure about, see if there are books that I know I'm not going to be reading and can go in the basement, see if there are books that I want to prioritize. So I would say once a year is the answer to this question, but I do often go through my TBR throughout the year and just try to cull as I go. How do you decide if you are going to keep a book or give it away? I'm going to use this question to mean once you've read that book or once you've culled that book. If I'm culling books, I'm giving them all away and I'm just putting them in little free libraries. I did that today. I found a duplicate of a book as I was going through my books today, and I immediately put it out to go into a little free library the next time I leave the house. If it's a book that I'm not going to read and I know I'm not going to read it, I just send it away right away. If it's a book that I've read off my TBR, it goes on a special shelf, and I keep all the books that I've read within a year on that shelf, and at the end of the year I do a shelf or toss video or a keep or toss video where I go through every single physical book that I read in the previous year and decide whether I want to put them on my red shelves, which are over here, or if I want to get rid of them. That mashup of tags is going to be my TBR tag video for this year. I hope you found some of the questions interesting or illuminating. Let me know if you have any other questions about my TBR, how I keep it, or how I decide what books to read, or how I pick the books that I put on my TBR. And let me know how many TBR shelves you have in your house. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!